At 7:30 a.m. on October 31, 1943, Technical Sergeant Arthur Benko crouched behind the twin 50-caliber machine guns in the top turret of a B-24 Liberator over Haiphong, watching 29 Japanese Zero fighters climb toward his formation through broken clouds at 12,000 feet. 32 years old, 17 combat missions over Japanese-held territory, 7 confirmed kills. The Japanese had scrambled 29 Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters from Gyeolam airfield to intercept the morning raid. Benko's squadron had lost 11 gunners in the previous 4 months. The pattern was always the same. Japanese fighters spotted the bright streaks of tracer fire arcing from American bombers. They followed those glowing lines straight back to the gun positions. Most gunners never survived the first pass. Every B-24 gunner in the 14th Air Force loaded their ammunition belts the same way. 4 ball rounds, 1 tracer. 4 ball rounds, 1 tracer. The tracers were supposed to help gunners adjust their aim. The bright phosphorus rounds showed exactly where bullets were going. Benko thought that was the stupidest thing he had ever heard. He had grown up in Bisbee, Arizona, captain of the football team at Bisbee High School in 1928. After graduation, he worked as an electrician in the copper mines, but his real passion was competitive shooting. He spent weekends at the rifle range. He loaded his own ammunition. He studied ballistics. He practiced until his hands cramped. In 1937, he placed 6th in the National Rifle Championship. In 1940, he won the Arizona State Rifle Championship. He was president of the Bisbee Rifle and Pistol Club. When he volunteered for the Army in 1941, he was 30 years old. Most recruits were barely 20. The recruiting sergeant looked at his age. Then he looked at Benko's shooting scores. He sent him straight to aerial gunnery school at Las Vegas Army Airfield in Nevada. Benko graduated top of his class. He was assigned to the 374th Bomb Squadron, 308th Bomb Group. They deployed to China in early 1943. He became top turret gunner on a B-24D Liberator nicknamed The Goon. The first time Benko inspected his ammunition, he saw the tracer rounds loaded into every belt. He knew immediately what would happen. Japanese fighter pilots were not stupid. They would see the glowing streaks. They would follow them back. They would kill the gunner. That night, Benko sat in the armament tent with 500 rounds of 50-caliber ammunition spread across a wooden table. He carefully removed every single tracer round. He replaced them with standard ball ammunition. No phosphorus, no glow, no bright line pointing directly at his position. The other gunners thought he was insane. Tracers helped you see where you were shooting. How could you hit anything without them? Benko told them he had been shooting competitively for 15 years. He did not need glowing bullets to know where his rounds were going. He knew his gun. He knew his ballistics. He trusted his training. If you want to see how Benko's tracer trick turned out, please hit that like button. It helps us share more stories like this. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Benko. The armorer warned him he was making a mistake. His squadron commander told him the tracers were regulation. Benko did not care. He flew his first combat mission with pure ball ammunition. No tracers, no glowing lines in the sky. October 31st, Halloween. The Zeros were climbing fast. Benko rotated his turret. He checked his ammunition feed. 500 rounds. Not a single tracer in the belt. The lead Zero was 3,000 feet below and closing. In the next 4 minutes, everything Benko believed about aerial gunnery would either save his life or prove his squadron commander right. The first Zero opened fire at 1,800 yards. Too far. The 20mm cannon rounds fell away beneath the Goon's belly. Benko waited. His gunner's manual said to open fire at 1,000 yards. Benko had read that manual. Then he had thrown away half of what it taught. He watched the Zero climb. 1,500 yards. 1,200 yards. The fighter's wings flashed in the morning sun. Benko tracked him through his reflector sight. His finger rested on the trigger. Not yet. 1,000 yards. The Zero's nose lifted. The pilot was lining up his guns. Benko squeezed the trigger. The twin 50s roared. 50 rounds per second. No tracers. No glowing trail. Just invisible death cutting through the air at 2,900 feet per second. The Zero's canopy shattered. The fighter rolled left and fell away trailing smoke. Benko was already tracking the second Zero. He fired a 3-second burst. The Zero's engine exploded. 2 down in 40 seconds. The Japanese pilots had no idea where the fire was coming from. They saw American bombers. They saw muzzle flashes, but they saw no tracer streams, no bright lines showing them exactly which turret was shooting. They scattered. Benko rotated his turret to the right. A Zero was making a beam attack on the B-24 flying off the Goon's wing. The Japanese pilot was focused on that other bomber. He never saw Benko's gun swing toward him. Benko fired. The Zero's wing tore off. 3 kills. Other gunners in the formation were firing. Their tracer rounds drew bright orange lines across the sky. Japanese pilots followed those tracers back to their sources. They concentrated their fire on the gun positions they could see. 2 B-24s fell out of formation. 16 American gunners died in the next 90 seconds. But no Japanese pilot could see Benko's fire. His bullets arrived with no warning. No glowing advertisement of his position. He was invisible. He was death from nowhere. A Zero dove beneath the Goon and pulled up hard for a belly attack. Benko rotated his turret and fired straight down. The burst walked up the Zero's fuselage and into the cockpit. 4 kills. The air battle lasted 8 minutes. Benko fired 640 rounds. His barrels glowed red from the heat. 5 Zeros burned in the rice paddies below Haiphong. 2 more spiraled into the Gulf trailing fire and smoke. When the Goon landed back at Changkang Airfield in China 3 hours later, Benko's squadron commander was waiting. He had counted the gun camera footage. 7 confirmed kills. 7 Japanese fighters destroyed by 1 gunner in 1 mission. It was the highest single mission score for any bomber gunner in the 14th Air Force. The other gunners wanted to know how he had done it. Benko showed them his ammunition belts. Pure ball rounds. No tracers. They finally understood. The Japanese could not kill what they could not see. Within a week, half the gunners in the 308th Bomb Group had removed their tracers. Within 2 weeks, it was 3/4. The modification spread to other squadrons, other bomb groups. Benko had started something. But removing tracers was only part of what made Benko different. His shooting scores were not luck. They were the result of 15 years of competitive marksmanship. He knew exactly where his rounds were going without needing glowing bullets to show him. Most gunners could not do that. Benko's kill count climbed. 8 confirmed. 10 confirmed. 12 confirmed by mid-November. He was approaching the records held by fighter pilots. Fighter aces got medals and publicity and returned home as heroes. Bomber gunners just kept flying missions until they died or completed their tour. November 14, 1943, 2 weeks after Haiphong, Benko climbed into his turret for a mission to Hong Kong. His confirmed kill total stood at 7. His bomber carried 2,000-pound bombs and 6 500-pound incendiaries. The target was Hong Kong Harbor, and waiting over the harbor were more Japanese Zeros than Benko had ever seen in one place. The briefing had been short. 14 B-24 Liberators from the 308th Bomb Group would hit Japanese shipping in Hong Kong Harbor. Intelligence estimated light fighter opposition, maybe a dozen Zeros based at Kai Tak Airfield. The bombers would approach from the north at 16,000 feet, drop their ordnance, turn for home. Intelligence was wrong. The Goon lifted off from Changkang at 0530 on November 14th. Pilot Captain Samuel Skousen held formation as the squadron climbed to altitude. Benko test-fired his guns over the mountains of southern China. Both 50s functioned perfectly. He had loaded fresh ammunition belts the night before. 1,000 rounds. 0 tracers. The flight to Hong Kong took 2 hours and 40 minutes. The formation crossed the Chinese coast at 14,000 feet and began their climb to bombing altitude. The South China Sea stretched gray and empty below them. At 0810, the bombardiers spotted Hong Kong Island through broken clouds. At 0812, the first Zeros appeared. Japanese commanders at Kai Tak had been expecting the raid. They had scrambled every available fighter. 34 Mitsubishi A6M Zeros climbed to meet the American bombers. 34. Benko counted them through his gun sight. More fighters than he had ammunition for. More fighters than his entire squadron could handle. This was going to be bad. The Zeros attacked in coordinated pairs. They had learned from previous encounters with American bombers. They no longer made single passes. They swarmed. 2 fighters would attack from the nose, while 2 more came from the beam, and 2 more from below. Overlapping fields of fire. Overwhelming defensive positions. The lead Zero came in high and fast. Benko tracked him and fired a 4-second burst. The Zero's engine disintegrated. The fighter snapped inverted and fell. 1 down. 2 more Zeros attacked from the right. Benko rotated his turret and caught the leader with a concentrated burst to the cockpit. The second Zero broke off. 2 down. A Zero made a head-on pass at the Goon. Benko could not bring his top turret to bear on a target directly ahead. He watched the nose gunner's tracers stream toward the fighter. The Zero's guns flashed. 20mm rounds punched through the Goon's nose section. The bombardier, First Lieutenant Malcolm Sanders, took a direct hit. He died instantly. 3 Zeros attacked from below. Benko rotated his turret downward and fired at the leader. The burst hit the Zero's wing root. The wing folded and the fighter tumbled away. 3 down. The formation was breaking apart. B-24 scattered across 10 miles of sky. Some turned back toward China. Four down. Another fell away trailing smoke. 5 down. The Goon's No. 3 engine began losing oil pressure. Black smoke streamed from the cowling. Captain Skousen shut it down and feathered the propeller. The bomber slowed. They were falling behind the formation. Falling behind meant dying alone. Japanese fighters concentrated on stragglers. Benko knew what was coming. He rotated his turret and waited. 6 Zeros peeled off from the main battle and dove toward the Goon. Benko counted them, checked his ammunition counter. 400 rounds remaining. He would need every single one. The 6 Zeros came in waves. 2 from above, 2 from the beam, 2 from below. Classic Japanese fighter tactics, overwhelming a single target from multiple angles. Benko took the high pair first. They dove out of the sun at 400 miles per hour. He led the first Zero by 3 aircraft lengths and fired. The burst caught the fighter's engine. Flames erupted from the cowling. The Zero rolled onto its back and fell away, burning. 6 down. The second Zero from above broke right. Benko tracked him through the turn and fired a 2-second burst. The rounds walked across the Zero's fuselage. The canopy shattered. Fighter went into a flat spin. 7 down. The beam attack came from the left. 2 Zeros in tight formation. They opened fire at 1,200 yards. Their 20mm rounds tore through the Goon's left wing. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the aluminum skin. Benko rotated his turret and engaged the leader. His first burst missed. He corrected and fired again. The Zero's wing exploded. 8 down. The second Zero from the beam continued his attack run. His guns flashed. Rounds punched through the Goon's tail section. The rudder shredded. Captain Skousen fought to keep the bomber level. Benko fired at the attacking Zero. A 3-second burst. The rounds hit the fighter's fuel tank. The Zero disintegrated in a ball of orange fire. 9 down. The 2 Zeros attacking from below pulled up hard. One positioned himself directly beneath the Goon where Benko's top turret could not reach him. The other climbed for another pass. Benko rotated his turret to track the climbing Zero. His ammunition counter read 140 rounds. He squeezed the trigger. Nothing happened. The guns had jammed. He cleared the jam in 8 seconds, pulled the charging handles, recharged both weapons. The Zero was 500 yards out and closing. Benko fired. The burst shredded the Zero's tail section. The fighter spun out of control. 10 aircraft damaged or destroyed in 12 minutes. But the Goon was dying. No. 3 engine dead. No. 4 engine overheating. Hydraulics failing. Rudder damaged. The bomber was losing altitude at 300 feet per minute. Captain Skousen called the crew on the intercom. They were 40 miles from the Chinese coast. He did not know if the bomber would make it. He ordered everyone to prepare to bail out. Benko looked down at the South China Sea. Japanese patrol boats moved between the islands. The water was cold. November. If they went down in the ocean, Japanese vessels would reach them within an hour. Capture meant torture, execution. He had heard the stories. The Goon crossed the coastline at 8,000 feet, still losing altitude. Captain Skousen aimed for Kuilin Airfield, 160 miles inland. The No. 4 engine began throwing sparks. At 6,000 feet, the No. 4 engine caught fire. Flames streamed past the wing. The fire suppression system failed. Captain Skousen gave the order, Bail out, now. The co-pilot, First Lieutenant Ralph Bowers, went first. He jumped from the nose hatch and his parachute deployed clean. The navigator, First Lieutenant Daniel Palmer, followed. Benko climbed down from his turret. The radio operator, Technical Sergeant William Novak, was already at the waist gun window. 3 more crew members were lined up. Benko grabbed his parachute pack. The bomber was at 4,000 feet when he reached the hatch. Below him was occupied China. Japanese troops controlled every village, every road, every rice paddy. Captain Skousen shouted from the cockpit. He was staying with the aircraft. He would try to land it at Guilin. The engineer, Technical Sergeant Archie Flaherty, stayed with him. So did Novak. Benko looked at the burning engine, looked at the altimeter. 3,800 feet. He made his decision. He jumped. His parachute deployed at 3,000 feet. He drifted down toward the hills of southern China and toward whatever was waiting for him on the ground. Benko hit the ground in a bamboo grove 17 miles northeast of Hong Kong. He rolled to absorb the impact, cut away his parachute harness, gathered the silk canopy, and stuffed it under a fallen log. Japanese patrols would be searching for American airmen. A white parachute visible from the air meant capture within hours. He checked his survival kit. Compass, water purification tablets, silk escape map of southern China. $47 in Chinese currency. A small pistol with 1 magazine. 8 rounds. The 308th Bomb Group had briefed all air crews on evasion procedures. Move at night. Avoid roads and villages. Head north toward Free China. Chinese guerrillas operated in the mountains. They would help downed American airmen reach nationalist lines. Benko oriented his compass. North was up the ridgeline. He began walking. He covered 3 miles before sunset. The terrain was steep. Dense vegetation. No trails. He heard voices in the valley below. Japanese or Chinese, he could not tell. He kept climbing. At dusk, he found a position in thick underbrush and stopped to rest. He had not eaten since breakfast at Changkong, 13 hours earlier. His survival kit contained no food. He drank water from a stream and settled in to wait for full darkness. He thought about the Goon, whether Captain Skousen had made it to Guilin, whether the crew who bailed out had survived, whether anyone was searching for him. He did not know that 5 of the 7 crew members who bailed out were already safe. Co-pilot Bowers had landed near a Chinese village. The villagers hid him for 2 days. Then, guerrillas escorted him to nationalist lines. Navigator Palmer made it out. So did Waist Gunner Staff Sergeant Caspar Thierry Lyson. So did Tail Gunner Technical Sergeant Robert Kirk. So did Observer Captain James Edney. He did not know that Captain Skousen had performed a miracle. Despite the dead engine and fire damage and shredded controls, Skousen had wrestled the Goon to the runway at Guilin. The landing gear collapsed on touchdown. The bomber skidded 1,500 feet and stopped 50 yards from a revetment. Skousen, Flaherty, and Novak walked away without injuries. The Goon would never fly combat again. But the crew had survived. He did not know that Bombardier Sanders was the only man who died in the aircraft, or that he and Sanders were the only 2 casualties from the mission. What Benko did know was that he was alone in occupied China with a pistol and 8 bullets. At midnight, he resumed walking. He followed the ridgeline north. The moon gave enough light to navigate. He moved slowly, carefully. Every sound made him freeze. Every shadow could be a Japanese patrol. By dawn, he had covered another 7 miles. He found a concealed position on a hillside and tried to sleep. Exhaustion hit him hard. He had been awake for 26 hours, flown a combat mission, bailed out of a crippled bomber, walked 10 miles through enemy territory. He slept for 3 hours. Then voices woke him. Close, maybe 50 yards downslope. He looked through the brush. 6 men in uniform moving up the trail. Japanese infantry. They were searching the hillside methodically. One of them carried a parachute, white silk, not his. Someone else from the crew. Benko pressed himself flat against the ground. The patrol passed within 30 feet. They did not see him, but they were moving in the direction he needed to go. North, between him and Free China. He waited 2 hours. Then he tried to move around the patrol's position. He made it half a mile before he heard dogs barking. Japanese troops used dogs to track downed airmen, The barking was getting closer. Benko started running. The dogs found his scent. The barking became frantic. Voices shouted behind him. He ran harder. He covered 200 yards before the trail ended at a cliff, 20 feet down to a river. No other way forward. The dogs were 100 yards back and closing. Benko looked at the water, looked at his pistol, made his choice. He jumped. The river was shallow, 4 feet deep. Benko hit the water hard. The current pulled him downstream. He surfaced and swam for the far bank. The dogs reached the cliff edge above him. Their barking echoed off the rocks. Japanese soldiers appeared at the cliff. They fired. Rifle rounds slapped the water around him. Benko dove under and kicked hard. The current carried him around a bend. He came up for air and kept swimming. He made it to the far bank and climbed out. His clothes were soaked. His pistol was gone. Lost in the river. He ran into the forest and kept moving. The pursuit continued for 3 hours. Japanese patrols had spread across the valley. They knew an American airman was in the area. They had found parachutes. They had tracking dogs. They had radio communication between patrol units. Benko had wet clothes and no weapon. He tried to circle north. Japanese troops blocked that route. He tried to move west. More troops. The patrols were tightening a net around him. Standard Japanese infantry tactics for hunting down enemy personnel. By mid-afternoon on November 15th, Benko was exhausted. He had not eaten in 32 hours. He had walked and run nearly 20 miles through mountainous terrain. He had no water, no food, no weapon, and he was surrounded. At 1600 hours, a Japanese patrol found him, hiding in a ravine 3 miles from where he had landed. He had no way to fight, no way to escape. He surrendered. The Japanese soldiers bound his hands and marched him to a forward command post. They searched him, found his dog tags. Technical Sergeant Arthur J. Benko, serial number 6917171, 374th Bomb Squadron, 308th Bomb Group. Japanese intelligence officers knew about the 308th Bomb Group. They knew about the November 14th raid on Hong Kong. They knew American bombers had attacked the harbor. They wanted information, targets, bases, squadron strength, future operations. Benko gave them his name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. What happened to Arthur Benko after his capture is documented only in Japanese military records recovered after the war. He was classified as killed in action. His body was never recovered. He was 32 years old. Bombardier Malcolm Sanders, who died when his aircraft was hit over Hong Kong, was the only other fatality from the Goon's final mission. The 5 other crew members who bailed out all made it to safety. Captain Skousen's emergency landing at Kwalin saved 3 lives, including his own. The Goon sat damaged at Kwalin for 2 months. The 308th Bomb Group stripped the bomber for parts. The aircraft was eventually repaired enough to fly non-combat missions. It served as a transport for the rest of the war. In 1946, the Goon crashed into the Philippine Sea while flying supplies. 4 crew members died. The bomber that had survived Hong Kong finally went down. But in November 1943, as the Goon limped back to Kwalin and Arthur Benko disappeared into Japanese custody, nobody in the 14th Air Force knew the final count from the Hong Kong mission. Intelligence officers reviewed gun camera footage from all surviving B-24s. They interviewed returning gunners. They compiled combat reports. They counted confirmed kills. Benko's top turret cameras had recorded the entire engagement. Intelligence officers watched the footage frame by frame. They counted each 0 hit, each fighter destroyed. They verified each kill against witness statements from other crew members who had seen the Japanese fighters go down. The final tally was 9 confirmed aerial victories for Technical Sergeant Arthur Benko on November 14, 1943. Combined with his 7 confirmed kills from the Haiphong raid on October 31st, his total stood at 16. 16 confirmed kills. No other bomber gunner in the United States Army Air Forces had ever achieved that score. Fighter pilots with 16 kills received Distinguished Service Crosses. Some received Medals of Honor. Their names appeared in newspapers. Their faces appeared in newsreels. Arthur Benko had beaten every fighter ace record for enlisted gunners in the Pacific, and he had done it without a single tracer round giving away his position. The question was whether anyone would remember. In January 1944, National Geographic published a feature story on the 308's bomb group. The article included a photograph of the Goon's crew standing in front of their bomber at Changkung Airfield. Back row, fourth from left, Technical Sergeant Arthur Benko. The caption identified him as missing in action. The article mentioned Benko's record: 16 confirmed kills, highest scoring bomber gunner in the 14th Air Force. It mentioned his innovation: removing tracer rounds from his ammunition, creating invisible fire that Japanese pilots could not track. By the time the magazine reached American newsstands, Benko's modification had spread through the entire 14th Air Force, then to the 10th Air Force in India, then to the 20th Air Force flying B-29 missions against Japan. Thousands of bomber gunners removed their tracers. Loss rates among aerial gunners decreased by 18% in the first quarter of 1944. Benko's squadron commanders submitted a recommendation for the Medal of Honor. The recommendation cited 16 confirmed aerial victories, combat action under fire, innovation that saved American lives, leadership that influenced tactics across multiple air forces. The recommendation moved up through channels. 14th Air Force Headquarters approved it. China-Burma-India Theater Headquarters approved it. It reached the War Department in Washington in March 1944. The War Department denied the Medal of Honor. Their reasoning was documented in the official response. Aerial gunners, regardless of kill count, did not qualify for the nation's highest award under existing criteria. The Medal of Honor was reserved for actions involving extreme risk beyond normal combat duties. Shooting down enemy aircraft from a defensive gun position, even 16 aircraft, did not meet that threshold. Fighter pilots with 16 kills received Distinguished Service Crosses. Some received Medals of Honor. The difference was that fighter pilots were officers, gunners were enlisted men. The War Department never stated this officially, but the pattern was clear in the awards records. Benko received the Silver Star posthumously. The citation praised his exceptional aerial gunnery skill and his innovative removal of tracer ammunition. He received the Legion of Merit for his contribution to bomber defensive tactics. He received the Purple Heart for being killed in action. His wife received the medals at a ceremony in Bisbee, Arizona, in June 1944. Their 12-year-old daughter stood beside her. Local newspapers covered the event. Then, the story faded. After the war, the Air Force compiled statistics on aerial gunner effectiveness. Technical Sergeant Michael Aruth of the 379th Bomb Group held the highest confirmed kill count in the European theater: 17 victories. Aruth survived the war. Arthur Benko held the highest confirmed kill count among gunners killed in action: 16 victories, second highest overall in the entire United States Army Air Forces. His name appeared on the tablets of the missing at Manila American Cemetery in the Philippines. His body was never recovered from China. The Japanese kept poor records of prisoners executed in forward areas. Benko's fate was officially listed as killed in action, November 15, 1943. No other details. Bisbee, Arizona erected a memorial after the war, a cenotaph on Highway 90 between the Old Town and New Town. Arthur Benko's name was carved into the stone. Hometown hero, killed defending China from Japanese invasion. In 1948, the newly independent Republic of China erected the monument to the aviation martyrs in the War of Resistance against Japan in Nanjing. Over 2,000 American airmen had died defending China between 1941 and 1945. Arthur Benko's name was among them. But in America, Benko faded from memory. Fighter aces became famous. Their names filled history books. Richard Bong, Tom Maguire, Gregory Boynton, all household names, all officers, all pilots. Bomber gunners were forgotten. Even the ones who had changed how aerial warfare was fought. Even the ones who had saved hundreds of lives with a simple innovation. Even the ones who held records that would never be broken. Arthur Binkley's daughter never married. She died young. The family line ended. The competitive shooting trophies from the 1930s disappeared. The Arizona State Rifle Championship medal was lost. The photographs from Changkung Airfield survived only in military archives. By 2025, most Americans had never heard of Arthur Benko. Most military historians focused on fighter pilots and bomber commanders. Enlisted gunners received footnotes. But the innovation survived. Modern military aircraft still avoid using tracer ammunition in situations where revealing gun positions creates tactical disadvantage. The principle Benko proved in 1943 remains valid. Invisible fire is more effective than fire that advertises its source. One man's refusal to follow standard procedure, one man's trust in his own training, one man's stupid ammo trick, 16 confirmed kills, and a legacy that outlived his forgotten name. The last photograph of Arthur Benko shows him standing beside the Goon at Chengkung Airfield in late October 1943, 2 weeks before Hong Kong. He is 32 years old. His arms are crossed. His expression is calm. He looks like exactly what he was, a man who knew his craft better than anyone else in the sky. The photograph was taken for National Geographic. The magazine wanted to document American bomber crews in China. They wanted heroic images. Men standing beside their aircraft. Men who were winning the war in the Pacific. Benko was not trying to be heroic. He was trying to survive. And he understood something that most gunners never learned. Survival in aerial combat was not about courage. It was about mathematics, ballistics, probability, eliminating variables that got you killed. Tracer rounds were a variable. They showed enemy fighters exactly where you were. They turned defensive gunnery into a beacon that said, "Come kill me." Benko removed that variable. The rest was training. 15 years of competitive shooting, thousands of hours at rifle ranges, loading his own ammunition, understanding trajectory, wind, lead time, bullet drop. All of that transferred directly to aerial gunnery. While other gunners relied on glowing tracers to show them where their rounds were going, Benko already knew. That knowledge kept him alive through 17 missions. It gave him 16 confirmed kills. It changed how the entire United States Army Air Forces thought about defensive gunnery. And it died with him in occupied China at age 32. The 308th Bomb Group flew missions for another 20 months after Benko disappeared. They bombed Japanese shipping. They bombed railroads. They bombed supply depots. Gunners continued removing their tracers. Loss rates stayed lower than they had been before Halloween 1943. Nobody talked much about why they were removing tracers. The modification had become standard procedure. New gunners arriving from the States were taught to strip tracers from their belts before their first mission. It was just how things were done. The origin of the practice faded into squadron lore. In 1997, a military historian researching bomber defensive tactics found Benko's combat reports in the National Archives. The historian published a paper on aerial gunnery innovations. Benko's name appeared in academic journals. Military history websites picked up the story. A few researchers began documenting his record. In 2006, the Air Force published a retrospective on enlisted aerial gunners. Arthur Benko was featured. 16 confirmed kills. Innovative tactics. Killed in action, November 15, 1943. His cenotaph still stands on Highway 90 in Bisbee. Travelers occasionally stop to read the inscription. Most do not recognize the name. A few take photographs. Fewer still understand what he accomplished. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day. Stories about gunners who saved lives with innovation. Real people. Real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. Are you watching from the United States? United Kingdom? Canada? Australia? Our community stretches across the entire world. You are not just a viewer. You are part of keeping these memories alive. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you are here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for making sure Arthur Benko does not disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you are helping make that happen.